right, back to it now. Look, I don't want a science experiment for dinner. I don't. I'm guessing you don't either. This idea of lab-grown meat, it's more repugnant than the idea of eating insects for dinner. They're both repugnant. But lab-grown meat, what is it? I don't even want to know. So, I have good news. Michigan State Rep Jim DeSana, who represents the 29th District, has been a farmer for 2 decades. He's a member of the Michigan Sheep Producers and Michigan Cattlemen's Association, and he and his wife operate Shamrock Station, that's a farm. And he said, look, we can't have this. So he introduced legislation to ban lab-grown meat and protect the right to hunt in Michigan, which is good news. Jim, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. All right, so you're a farmer. Where's the 29th?
29th is just south of Detroit Metro Airport. If you fly into Detroit, you fly over my district. Taylor, Huron Township, New Boston, Carlton, Monroe, Frenchtown Township. Goes from very urban to very rural very quick.
Black dirt. Good farming soil, isn't it?
Some of the best in Michigan.
Maybe some of the best in the country, actually, some of that farming dirt down there. All right, so look, I don't know what a lab experiment they're trying to put on my table. I don't want it. I'm with you. I support farmers and ranchers. I have my whole life because I hunt and fish. We'll talk about that in a second. This is critical. Ron DeSantis, the first one to reject lab meat for sale in Florida. I think you're doing the right thing. Do you think you're going to get support? And if it went to Governor Whitmer's desk, if it got that far, would she sign it?
That's a big question that still remains to be answered. I know that there's a lot of supporters of our, let's say, the left, and a lot of supporters of that are in that more to the left end of the spectrum that truly believe in the natural link between animals grazing grass and producing meat, which really isn't meat, producing a fake meat in a lab under pharmaceutical conditions. And I think this really goes to the question of what is healthy food and what will we be eating and how will we afford it? Because this is going to be so unaffordable, Steve. People who will tell you,
first of all, it's silly. And that's just, here's my interpretation of the world, as backwater as it may be for the Democrats to understand. The sun shines, the grass grows, the cows eat the grass. All of that energy is transformed into healthy meat, however you get there. Chickens eat bugs. Chickens, pick at the ground and the grass and eat the bugs, and we eat the chickens. And by way of doing that, we're absorbing the energy of the sun. I mean, that's pretty basic, right? But that's kind of how it works. You have photosynthesis that creates the plants, that create the energy that the animals consume, then we consume the animals and the plants, and that's how we survive as omnivores. But we don't eat in the laboratory, do we?
That's correct. You have it pretty well described, spot on. Even the high mountain desert has grass, edible grass to eat, and has bugs. And the animals that eat these products of our nature are healthier. You cannot create in a lab. Well, let's all agree today that when you buy a steak or you buy beef, it's a one ingredient food. If you look at your package, it will say organic beef or organic chicken. When you're going to get this lab grown meat, it's going to have dozens of ingredients similar to when you go buy a bag of dog food. So when an animal is out in the sunlight absorbing the vitamins and minerals from the ground, that's natural. They're going to have to create pharmaceutical grade chemicals and vitamins to put into the meat. They're also going to have to create artificial flavors and MSG. And we all know we don't want to eat too many foods that have all these ingredients in them.
No, highly processed foods are not good for human beings. Oh, and by the way, just as an aside, I use Great Lakes Pet Food, a West Michigan company. They use real chicken, real turkey, and real pork. No fillers, no garbage. There, a little quick plug for my friends at Great Lakes Pet Food that feed all my animals with real ingredients. It's not junk, all right? Stop feeding people junk. Look, you go to the grocery store, if you stay on the outside walls, you get real food. You get the meat department. You get the bakery. You get the milk and the cheese. If you go to the middle, and you get all your fresh vegetables on the outside too. But if you go to the middle, you get food-like products. They look like food and smell like food and taste like food, but the ingredients list is like this long. It's as long as my arm, and I can't pronounce half of it, Jim, and it's dangerous. It's not good for people to eat that crap, is it?
I wonder how many people really realize how dangerous it is to ingest all of these chemicals and preservatives. What they say, you should not eat a food that goes past 3 ingredients. And I know when we cook, we might add a little bit of flavoring, a little bit of salt, parsley, whatever you might add. But this is dangerous for our society. It's dangerous for our health, and it's not going to be cheap. I will tell you, I think our founding fathers probably didn't write another amendment into the Constitution about the right to grow and eat your own food, because that was so basic. They would have said, gosh, who would need to write that into a constitution? But I would argue with you today here that the right to grow food and to trade it or sell it with our neighbors is a basic right that
I
cannot
agree
be
with that.
infringed by the government.
That's a fundamental right. I don't need them, regulating my backyard chickens to keep the food supply safe. I don't need any of that. And by the way, I love a good steak on occasion, Jim, and I respect your farming, but I am a free-range red meat kind of guy. I love free-range red meat. No preservatives, no growth hormones, no antibiotics. I call those deer, white-tailed deer here in Michigan. I'm a free-range red meat kind of guy, and you say we have to protect that in the Constitution as well. I thought it was already protected here in Michigan. Was I wrong?
27 states have the right to hunt ensconced in their Constitution. Michigan is not one of those states. We want to try to put that in our Constitution, the right to hunt, the right to fish, as a basic right in our Constitution that would be protected in our state. It is not currently it's regulated by our state. And
so I was wrong. I thought that was already protected. It's not. And look, as a farmer, you want me to have the right to take white-tailed deer because, well, they eat a lot. Corn, beans, they eat a lot, don't they, Jim?
We have a big problem in Michigan with the deer eating the corn and eating the soybeans. Nothing could be smarter in my mind than to harvest more deer.
Yeah, and the insurance companies like you to shoot every one of them. Every single one. They'd like them all gone. Well, we can't do that. But we have a couple million deer in Michigan, give or take, on the best guesses. It goes up and down a little bit. And they're all out right now, by the way. The youth hunt, for anybody keeping score, is next weekend. This coming weekend is the youth hunt. So get out there, take a kid hunting, and introduce them to the outdoors. Make them leave that device, whatever it is, at home and enjoy a day hunting and fishing. Jim, I'll give you the last word here.
Well, I think lab-grown meat has the potential to destroy all of our connections to the natural world. And we have plenty of ground in America to graze. We, as evidenced by the fact of your comment about how many deer we have in Michigan, what could be more beautiful than having natural animals out eating grass in our environment and then harvesting them and eating them? I know that sounds crazy to some people. I think our founding fathers would take argument with that. That's how they survived.
A lot of wild turkeys I've noticed in Michigan, too. That worked pretty well in 1984. Jim DeSana, thank you for being here. Free range, organic red meat. That's what we like around here, Jim. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciate it. Speaking of free range, organic red meat, Ivy shoots more than, well, she just shoots bigger ones. Everybody knows that. She just clocks me. Last year, she turned down this giant buck. Why'd you turn down? I've shot bigger. Really? Oh, yeah. Guess who's next? Ivy.